This is Ken Pyle with VOD TV. We're with Rich Fickle of the NCTC. We're here at the ACIA's 20th Anniversary Summit. Rich, we talked a little bit about the challenges your members face, particularly with content, particularly as they try to move to multi-screen. Maybe we can kind of start that conversation again.
Okay, so I don't think it's our members' challenge. I think it's an industry challenge. Even Comcast last week said, just heads up, our content costs are going to rise 12% a year. So even the largest cable operator in the country is saying, hey, costs are going up. Obviously sports are one of the key drivers and so forth. So, but the problem is more acute for a lot of our members who are smaller because they may not have as rich of a product offering, so they have less ability to raise rates. And they don't have the scale to amortize some of the costs of operations and investment in technology. So any pressure on operating margins is more serious. But the good news is the business overall is still healthy because there's tremendous growth on the high-speed data side. And then you say, well, why is that? Well, the interesting thing is that high-speed data is growing at 40% a year, predominantly because video is coming over the high-speed data pipe. From other providers, what they call over-the-top, which, so in kind of some people say over-the-top's bad, it's going to, kill us and all that stuff. I kind of look at it and say, well, if you didn't have over-the-top, your high-speed data demand wouldn't be as high, and you wouldn't be creating these new products and services around high-speed data, so therefore you wouldn't be, enjoying as much of a robust opportunity in the high-speed data side. So it's kind of funny in the way that it's, yes, traditional video marketplace is under attack business model-wise. High-speed data is growing because there's a different video model growing over here. So the question is, what should an operator do? Should they, continue down the path with the current video model and hope that something changes? Probably unlikely. It's going to continue to be under pressure because content companies have consolidated into, roughly 5 large companies, which I've called the 5 kings, and because content is king, so
right.
they're kings.
Yeah, they have their little kingdoms.
Right? You got princes and then you got princesses, but you got the kings, right? And so they are dominant in the marketplace, and they all have unique approaches to the market, and some are embracing new technologies, some are resisting it and not wanting to change their world. But the reality is that model of wholesale, retail, around 5 large content companies is probably reaching its peak in terms of maturity with regards to how much they can charge to the distribution network and make it work. So, there's going to come a point, maybe it's not tomorrow or next year, maybe it's a couple of years out, but there has to be a different approach to that business. And it's really starting now. Over the top, people say, well, we're not really seeing big numbers on cord cutting or cord shaving even, but I don't think that's really the right question. I think there is a little bit of cord shaving, but there are also cord nevers. These are people that are coming out of college, new formation of households, which typically has been, important for growth in the industry.
Sure.
So you don't capture people coming into new household formation. There's people that are, exiting household formation too, so you're not replenishing the market base.
Right.
So the cord nevers are an interesting bunch because they're not going to pay $60 to get 2 channels that they want because they're now trained that they can probably find good content in other ways. They're more adept at navigating multiple screens and alternatives. So what we need to do is look hard at how do we really embrace that change, like the cable industry has always done, and we've done to others, like what we did to broadcasters and things like that. We now have to say, okay, we can fight it. We can maybe have legal disputes and better negotiations and all that stuff. That's going to happen, but the reality is you need to now look at ways to embrace that change and look at alternative sources of content, alternative business models, and underpinning that is the enablement of technology. And that's what is driving most of this. And that's where the cable industry has a superior opportunity to shine.
Well, it's interesting too, because the market, in one sense, is kind of naturally, with the technologies that have been enabled, naturally kind of almost doing a la carte with some of these over-the-top services, right?
Yeah, it is a la carte, and it's fine because you know, the current users of over-the-top are able to identify what they want by virtue of the fact they become aware of it through maybe the linear channels or, you know, social media, friends, and it's a small population. That doesn't scale well to the broader mass audience because they don't want to work that hard.
Right.
So now what's happening is there's tool sets that are emerging in the market relatively quickly around new ways to find content that's personalized and recommended to you so you don't have to work hard.
Yeah, we spoke of that a little bit with Bob and with Doug, just the challenge of the user interface, right?
Yeah, it's more than a user interface. It's it actually is. I mean, not to get too kind of whacked out, but there's, you know, you've heard of Web 2.0, there's now Web 3.0, which is the assimilation of information from different sources and creating a different level of interpretive intelligence. And that's really what's going to start to happen with television in terms of helping determine what you might like. And it needs to be simple to navigate, which is the UI, but the core of it is it's it's going to be much more intelligent about making your life easier, and that's going to creep some people out. You know, like Intel, for example, is trying to launch this TV service, and they've got cameras. Right. You say, why would you ever let a camera in your living room? Some people would, of course, but why would you do that? Well, Intel has this theory that they can see your responses and capture responses and be able to factor that into these profiles. Well, from a technology standpoint, it's very interesting. From a human level, it's creepy.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. There's I have a whole series of videos on brainwave technology, right? And I could see how that they already are using that to predict what, you know, based on mood, what you want to watch. Right?
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, yeah, the brainwave technology, facial recognition in terms of whether you're smiling or frowning, all those things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but anyway, there'll be practical solutions. Those are kind of exotic.
Right.
Although some days it'd be nice to find out if I do have a brainwave. But I think that's where it's got to go. So from the NCTC standpoint, we're going to find ways to negotiate better deals and, you know, be more earnest and all that on the programming side. But I think at the same time we're going to start exploring the alternative models. You know, and you know, there's 5 kings. If they continue to do well and innovate, they'll continue to be, you know, reigning over their territories. But there's a good chance that they won't be. Some of them won't be. And what we need to do is foster alternative sources of content. I know that goes against the grain of conventional thinking. You know, many MSOs have said, I can't launch any independent networks. I think that's a mistake long term. I think we got to find a way to embrace new content. We always have, always will. If we don't do it, the consumers will. Right. So the question is, do we want to be aligned with the consumer, or do we want to stay in our current, you know, world of, you know, whoa.
Yeah. So independence working with independence, that makes a lot of sense.
It does. I mean, there's some short-term realities around the bandwidth and things like that. But, you know, what we call over the top, which really is IP, is moving at such a rapid rate in terms of the efficiency of bandwidth that today IP technology will allow a movie to show up in a piece of bandwidth that's about 1/4 as large as a traditional cable MPEG-2 channel. Next year, it'll be 1/8. You know, I mean, that's just phenomenal, right? And it'll just get better and better. So, you know, it's that IP technology that drives over the top. If we embrace that, we can do wonderful things. And the cable industry has always done things like that, so we should be able to do it.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll look forward to talking to you next year, and maybe we can just think what this interview is going to do with the brainwave technology and some of the cool things you're talking about.
Right, so next year we'll just think it, we won't say it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much.
All right, see ya.